Alrighty, so Luis's cat, Tabby, is stuck on a branch up in a tree. To rescue Tabby, Luis places the base of a 10-foot tall ladder 3 feet from the bottom of the tree. So if we have a ladder, you have to think, this is the ladder. How tall the ladder is doesn't change, or the length of the ladder doesn't change as we angle it. So if I draw a really great picture, all right, the cat's somewhere in that tree, and I've got a ladder against that tree. And then here's the ground. So do we see the triangle that's now encompassed within my picture? I can draw another triangle over here if it helps. But it says that that the ladder is a 10-foot ladder, which means the hypotenuse of our triangle is 10. It is 3 feet from the bottom of the tree, so they place it 3 feet away, so this is 3. Now it's saying, what is the height of the branch where Tabby is stuck? So really we're looking for x, or x. Now, we don't need to use any trig here. We weren't given any angles, but we were given two sides of a right triangle. In order to solve this one, we're going to need to use the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem is going to be on that blue formula sheet for you, but it is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Keep in mind, c must always be your hypotenuse. A and b from there doesn't matter, because if a is 1 and b is 4, if a squared is 1 and b squared is 4, then we get 5. But if we flip it and do 4 and 1, we still get 5. When you add things together, it doesn't matter what order you do it in. So I'm just going to say x is a and 3 is b. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug or substitute in my values. So I'll have x squared plus 3 squared equals 10 squared. 3 squared is 9, so then we get x squared plus 9 equals 10 squared, which is 100. I'll subtract 9 from both sides of my equal sign to keep everything consistent. X squared equals 91. So you could say that x is equal to the square root of 91. But if someone was like, I really need help, help me get my cat. My cat's stuck in a tree. How tall up is my cat? And you said, oh, he's about square root of 91 feet. That would not really help your friend. So what we're going to do for this one is just find the square root of 91, which is 9.54-ish feet. So x equals 9.54 feet. Now for number 9, Jake plans to use a ramp to make it easier to move a piano out of the back of his truck. So here's a truck. Okay, there's a truck. There's a piano in it. The back of the truck is 33 inches tall. So let me get another color so I can really see what I'm doing. This distance right here is 33 inches tall, and the ramp is 65 inches long. So if I put the ramp up to my car, and I'm trying to get the piano here, then it says, what is the horizontal distance from the end of the ramp, this is the end of the ramp, to the back of the truck? So we're looking for this distance, and the 65 inches long is how, like, the length of the ramp. Now, do we see that we have a right triangle again? We can go ahead and use the Pythagorean theorem. So the Pythagorean theorem, again, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And we need to make sure that we know what our c term is. C will always be our hypotenuse, which is across from that right angle. So 65 is c, and your a's and b's from there are not going to affect the problem. So we'll plug in, we'll say x squared plus 33 squared equals 65 squared. And I don't know these off the top of my head. So if I've got 33 squared, that's 1089. So x squared plus 1089 equals 65 squared. which is 42.25. Then I will subtract 1089 from both sides of my equation, which gives me x squared equals 3136. I need to take the square root of both sides. So if I take the square root of 3136, I get a perfect number of 56. So x equals 56. What does x represent again? It represents the horizontal distance from the end of the ramp to the back of the truck. For number 10, it says a ladder is leaning against the side of a house and it forms a 65-degree angle with, okay, so we've got a house. There's our house. Beautiful house. And it says there is a ladder leaning against it. And I'm sure there's a ground. So it says a ladder is leaning against the side of a house and forms a 65-degree angle with the ground. So the angle that the ladder and the ground make is 65 degrees. The foot of the ladder is 8 feet from the house. So if this is the bottom of the ladder and this is the house, this distance right here is 8 feet. Find the length of the ladder. So we're trying to figure out how tall or how long the ladder is. That'll be my x term. Now, I can redraw my triangle if it can help me to see it a little bit better. I've got a 65-degree angle, 8, and I'm solving for x. Now, if I'm looking for a missing side, I need to be using trig. In order to use trig, I need to know which of the 3 trig functions to use, sine, cosine, or tangent. Keeping in mind, SOHCAHTOA can help us out. First things first, I'm always going to label my hypotenuse first. So if I go across from that right angle, that'll lead me straight to my hypotenuse, which has a variable of x. In relation to the angle of 65 degrees, 8 is right beside it. It also helps create that angle. So that means that this must be my adjacent side. If I'm dealing with adjacent and hypotenuse are going to relate with cosine. So I can say cosine of 65 degrees equals adjacent over hypotenuse. In order to solve this, we need to put cosine over 1 so that we can cross multiply. Then we say 8 times 1 is 8, x times cosine of 65 degrees. Now, we need to do the inverse operation of multiplication here. If we're multiplying, how can we undo multiplication? Well, again, that inverse operation would be division. So I will divide both sides of my equation by cosine of 65 degrees. Now, those cosines are going to, cosine over cosine is 1. Anything over itself is 1. So I'm left with x equals 8 divided by cosine of 65 degrees. Then all I need to do is plug that in. 8 divided by cosine of 65 gives me 18.93-ish. That 2, if I look over, is beside a 9 on the right. That 9 is going to bump this 2 up to a 3. So 18.93. 18.93. And again, it tells me that I'm dealing with feet. I believe, yes, 8 feet. So there we go. And again, that's going to represent the height or the length of the ladder.